Welcome to the Probate Podcast, where we talk about all the things you didn't know you need to know about probate. My name is Sherri, and I'm so glad that you're here. I want you to understand the process and to know what to expect because it's going to make things easier and it's going to save you money. And I'm here to show you how. Hello and welcome to the Probate Podcast. My name is Sherri and I'm your host. I'm so excited that you're here because today's guest, Adam Hundley, is going to talk to you about what it's like to be an executor from a personal experience, but also because he works at a law office and that's what they deal with every day. So he knows what families are going through when they come through the door, and then he rises to the occasion to take care of them. I want to tell you about Adam in a little bit, but I also want to make sure that you grab your pen and paper because the things that we talk about are going to be things that you want to refer back to. Adam, I believe that my listeners have a little notebook that they write all their notes down into, and then they can go back and when they need it, they might not need it today, but when they need it, they can go back and take a look at their notebook. They'll know where everything is. And so Adam and I are going to be talking about some things that you're going to remember to save you time and money, but also heartache and headaches. Boy, planning takes away so much of the issues that can crop up. We can't anticipate everything, but we know a lot. And so Adam and I are here to help you through that. And my goal also for this podcast is not that you just listen to what we have to say, but that you take action and actually create a plan. And so, Adam, I have a goal this year of influencing 50 people to have a plan in place, whether it's a trust or a will. And so if that's one of them, I want them to let me know because you guys, I have a list and it's so fun to see the list growing. So take action on that. Don't just listen. Okay, so Mr. Adam Hundley is the Client Services Director at Your Legacy Legal Care. That law firm is under Kim Hegwood. You may have heard her name before, and they've recently rebranded to be Your Legacy Legal Care. That law firm provides estate planning and probate legal services in the greater Houston area. Adam is dedicated to enhancing the client experience. He's one of the first people that individuals will meet when they go to the office. He's genuinely committed to understanding their unique needs, and he works closely with them throughout the process to make sure that their outcomes are what they expected. So it isn't just the attorney that you're going to get at Your Legal Legacy Care office. It's also Adam. And I got to tell you from personal experience, I love every minute that I spend with Adam. He ensures seamless synergy. I love that. Between client needs and strategic planning. Adam earned his paralegal studies degree in 2020, and he's continuing his education today at the University of Houston Clear Lake campus. He's a busy man. He's an active member of the Paralegal Division of the State Bar of Texas and the Houston Metropolitan Paralegal Association. That's a mouthful. He's president of Community Assistance Providers of Greater Pearland. He's a certified dementia practitioner and a certified Alzheimer's and dementia disease care trainer. He's a proud Houstonian, native Houstonian, and he thrives on exploring vibrant Houston scenes and restaurants. He has 2 fur babies, Bentley and Rusty, and he has a passion for travel that knows no bounds. I love that. Adam, welcome. Welcome to the show. I'm so glad you're here.
Hi, Sherri. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Okay, so we met for coffee. You know, it was all about business then. But tell us, if I were to meet you for coffee again, who are you as a person? Before we jump into legal stuff, tell me about Adam as a person.
Well, I consider myself to be very passionate about anything and everything that I throw myself into, whether that be work, whether that be continuing education for myself. But I'm very family oriented. I love being around friends and family. As you said, I am a native Houstonian, and we know how big Houston is. It can take an hour and a half to get from one end of the city to the other. So there's always those small family-owned restaurants or hidden gems throughout the city that I like to explore. I'm a big foodie, so I love trying any and all new restaurants or cuisines that may pop up. But you can find me most of the time just hanging out with those that I love being around, and especially my two dogs, my fur babies, my 2 dachshunds. They're my children. So
I used to grow. I grew up with dachshunds. They are something. They're really fun, and they can be opinionated.
Absolutely, 100%. One of them, Bentley, he's my 12-year-old. So he's a senior. He's getting up there, and he gets very opinionated sometimes.
So when we did meet for coffee, and it was so fun because it was at a place that neither one of us had been to before.
Right.
And yeah, we had a lot of fun in that conversation, and I knew right away that I wanted to have you as a guest on my show. So would you tell us a little bit before we get into more of our topic, tell us about how you got to the firm, because I think that's interesting.
Yeah, well, I've been with Your Legacy Legal Care, formerly Hegwood Law Group, as you mentioned. We rebranded about a year ago. But I started with the firm actually as an intern, a probate and guardianship intern, because I needed that internship to gain my credit that I needed to graduate with my legal studies degree. And I've been here since. So this is going on 5 years now. So I have been here full time. I have excelled in my career. I continue to gain the experience and knowledge because you may think you know everything, but it's something new every day. And this is not, I will be honest, this is not an area of law that I was anticipating myself liking or enjoying whenever, I was looking for an internship. This just kind of fell into my lap when I was like, well, I need the credit to graduate.
Right.
I can always go somewhere else after,
Mhm.
but this just sounds really boring and not me. I was really looking into, the criminal side of the law or even personal injury. But here I am almost 5 years later and loving every second of it.
Yeah. We talked about how you wanted the drama and you didn't think that there would be enough drama in this field, I think. And how much did you know about probate and estate planning when you started?
I didn't know much. I had taken my wills and probates course, but you learn more in these courses to graduate about the transactional side. You don't
Correct.
necessarily learn, or you're not necessarily taught much on the emotional side, or the family issues or the drama that can happen behind the scenes. So to I was very humbled quickly. I was humbled quickly on how wrong I was.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't know what you don't know, but it was like, holy
Exactly.
cow. Can there be drama in probate courses? In estate planning? Absolutely.
Right. Yes.
It's that stuff that they make movies out of, right? Oh
Absolutely.
gosh. So tell us a little bit about what the process is like when people come to the firm.
So typically when someone, schedules an appointment with us, they want a will or they want to talk about a trust or powers of attorneys, they get scheduled with either myself or one of my counterparts. Right now, that's Nikki. She's our client services coordinator. So we're the first point of contact typically for any potential client that may come to our office. Our job is to just sit down with them, kind of figure out what their goals are, kind of figure out what they want. Because we, one, need to be sure that we're going to be a right fit for them. That way we can know what steps need to be taken to be sure that they're taken care of. It's not transactional by any means. Everything in the estate planning and probate realm is so tailored to your individual needs. So I pride ourselves in the fact that we actually take that time to get to know you and get to know your family and get to know what it is that you truly want. That way we can put something together, even if it's just an outline of a plan that's going to work the way you want it to, because it's not a cookie cutter process. It's not a one and done type of thing. And then after that, after you meet with either myself or Nikki, then we take those next steps and then you meet with one of our estate planning attorneys to get down really into the nitty gritty details of how you want this trust or will or estate plan to work when it needs to. And then from there, we have check-ins throughout the whole process. We want to be sure that you're taken care of every step of the way. But even after everything is signed, sealed, and delivered, we have review meetings every couple years, 2 to 3 years at the very least, just to be sure you're taken care of as your life may change, as the laws may change. So, like I said earlier, it's not a one and done thing. It's an ever evolving process. And we want to be sure that you're taken care of if something does change that may affect your pre-planning.
What are some emotions that are going through the people that are sitting across the table from you?
A lot of the times they're scared, they're anxious, they're nervous, they're pulling back their curtains to their personal life. They're airing all of their laundry, whether it be clean or dirty, because estate planning is very tailored to you. So I need to know almost everything I can about you, so that I can make sure that you're taken care of and your loved ones are taken care of in the future. So a lot of people are very hesitant to open those doors to
Yeah,
somebody that they've never met before. Completely understandable. But I can relate personally on a personal level because there were loved ones of mine, grandparents in particular, that did not do any of this planning, that left a huge mess. So, whenever I'm meeting with a potential client for the first time, yes, it's very important to just sit and listen and learn. And that's what I tell everybody that I meet with. I am here to learn as much as I can about you. And I value transparency and just honesty because without
right,
those two things, we can't help to the best of our ability.
right.
So it's
Yeah.
very important to just take into consideration, yes, what they want. But I think what really sets everybody in our firm, everybody in our practice apart from a lot of others is that we all have that personal experience. Working here, we've all been through either probate or guardianship or helping aging loved ones plan, whether it be for Medicaid or long term care. So all of us, and I can confidently say 100% of our staff have been in the shoes that our clients find themselves in now. So we can relate on that personal level and walk them through, you know, of ways and strategies to avoid having to go through what we went through.
Our mortality is uncomfortable to talk about, but they
Right.
may They may not have the estate that they led on to believe. They may be embarrassed that their family find out, or they don't really like this family member and they don't want to leave their like there are
Hmm.
lots of things. And offices like yours, you can be transparent. It's a confidential conversation.
Hmm.
You can be transparent. There's no judgment on your part as to what people want to do. Can you go a little deeper into the executor's experience and what that is like from a personal level?
Yeah, well, whether it be an executor or trustee or
Right,
anybody who is responsible for carrying out somebody's wishes,
right.
upon their passing, it can be very daunting. It can be very stressful. There's a lot of things that have to be done, and they're very meticulous things. And they are not by any means private, especially going through probate, especially having to handle all of the financial obligations, handling the other loved ones, that are grieving.
Right.
It's not as easy as just flipping a switch and, okay, the funeral or cremation was pre-planned, that's done. That's one part of your responsibility as an executor or trustee. Nobody knew in my family that the house that my grandparents lived in for 50 plus years didn't automatically transfer to my grandmother upon my grandfather's passing. So that was another thing, a light bulb that went off, in my head. And I'm like, wow, nobody in my family knew about this. How many other people don't know about it?
Those kinds of realizations are shocking. Like, it's shock layered on top of grief. And then, it's like,
Yep.
"Oh my gosh, what do I do now?" So then there's fear in there.
Yeah,
All of these
there's a lot
emotions.
of scenarios that run through your head, and now working in this field, it's really opened my eyes because had a lot of this stuff been done already, even just a will helps tremendously instead of having to face the unknowns without a will like I did.
Yeah, the teacher in me says, "Let's get educated," and that'll save a little bit of heartache, right? And then
Absolutely, and that's
so
why our firm is big on providing education. It doesn't matter if you think you need a will or a trust, or, if you think you might have to go through probate or you don't know if probate's even needed. We're big on just providing as much information as we can so that way you and your loved ones can make an informed decision.
Yeah, and this is not a place where you want to be a maverick and go out there and just make your own way, because there can be some serious repercussions. What are some things that an executor must do before they start selling property or acting as an executor?
So, if you have to go through probate, whether you're probating a will or whether you're probating without a will, you can't do anything and everything you may want, even if
Right.
you are the executor. Your job as an executor is to follow the instructions of the person that created the will. And the will should provide those instructions on what to do, who the beneficiaries are, how they receive it, when they receive their inheritance. Or in my case, without the will, it's already laid out for you according to the state law. So, I can't go against what the law has already stated, right? So my job is to go through that court process. And like you said, Sherry, every county may have a different timeline depending on how backed up the court docket is. But, for example, like Harris County, they just opened up a fifth probate court. But typically what, Kim tells all of our clients is probate's going to take about 6 to 12 months to go through, from start to finish. But if there's anybody coming forward to contest anything, you're going to have to fight, or you're going to have to work with the attorney to get them the information that they need to file the pleadings with the court. It's a very public process because nothing in probate is private. If something gets filed in probate, it's public record,
Right.
which means the inventory of your estate, which is something that, as an executor, you have to provide information to your attorney of what assets are in the estate that are going
Right.
through probate. So, and that inventory is very detailed. It's going to have your bank account balances. It's going to have the addresses of the property you own, so all of that is public record. I could go online and tell you that, Sally Smith next door, whose grandmother just passed, is inheriting her $500,000 home. That process itself can be very stressful because then you've got creditors or you've got other people reaching out, to you or to your attorney trying to get paid what debt may be owed. But just think of having to go through that for 6 to 12 months without really anything you can do, because that's just honestly how long it takes, and then once everything is done and approved by the court, then as the executor, your job is to distribute these assets to the beneficiaries. I mean, that's just a procedural, way of doing it. You have to formally be appointed as the
Right.
executor or administrator of the estate. Just because I have a will that says, Sherri, you may be my executor, it doesn't mean that you can automatically fill those shoes, upon
Right.
my death. You're not my executor until that will goes through probate court. And that's just another thing that a lot of people, don't understand is that you may have a will that provides very clear-cut instructions on what you want, but that's not enforceable until it goes through probate.
Right. It has to be a valid. I mean, there's so many things. Oh my
Right.
gosh. What do you call the person who goes through probate when there's not a will and they're not officially an executor? What's the term in Texas for that?
Administrator.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So
Some states
it's the same thing as the executor pretty much. It's
yeah.
just that's what it's called here in Texas. If you know, are applying to be that person to spearhead or manage the estate, you would be appointed as the administrator.
And do administrators always have to pay bond? And do they get the option to be independent or dependent?
That would depend, really.
Okay.
It's going
Typical
to
attorney
typical legal answer, right? So, we've seen with some of our probate matters that we've represented clients in, what Kim would say is that it's going to depend on the judge, it's going to depend on the county, it's going to depend on the person who's applying to be the administrator.
Okay.
Because there are requirements of who can serve or who can be appointed.
Right.
So throughout this process of trying to figure out if probate is needed, who the decedent is, and what the relationship is between the potential administrator and the decedent. That's our job as a law firm to do some fact finding to determine what the outcome may look like when this person is appointed, if they have to pay a bond, if they can serve independently, or if it's going to have to be done dependently. But it's all going to depend on the judge in the county.
Okay. Yeah. And every judge is different. So Harris County
Mhm.
has 5 judges that think differently. So they don't,
Absolutely.
yeah, they're not
Yep.
all the same. But you can be an administrator and be named independent. You don't have to be a dependent just because you're an administrator.
Right.
Okay. That's good to know. So let's talk a little bit about trustees, because administrators have challenges that are unique to their situation and executors. Do trustees have similar challenges?
I'm not going to say they can't or they don't, because they could, but having a trust and someone managing it as trustee, it's a lot easier of a process than being an executor or administrator of an estate. Because a trust, if done, if planned properly, if funded properly, if set up correctly, avoids the whole potential issue of probate. So the trustee can have access, or, be able to handle or distribute the assets in the trust almost immediately upon someone's passing. The only thing that they have to do is become again formally appointed as the trustee, which is what our office does when someone who established a trust passes. We do what's called a new certification of trust, which just formally appoints the new successor trustee. And then from there, they immediately start following the instructions that's laid before them in this trust. There is trust litigation out there. They can have some obstacles, or, some kind of issues, but it's not as common as they are when we're dealing with wills or probate.
Sounds like such an easier time, that there would be more space for grieving and adapting to this new family dynamic after the loss of someone. It seems like such a nice transition. Um,
It absolutely can be. And that's, our office is trust friendly, because it makes things easier, not only on the person who's in charge upon death, but it makes it easier for everybody. Knowing that everything is already taken care of in this one estate plan. I tell all of our clients, when someone passes away, there's really nothing we can do until you have a death certificate. So take that initial time to grieve, have the services, grieve with your other loved ones, have that celebration of life. But once you receive a death certificate, then we can start on the legality side.
started Willowwood Solutions to help people navigate probate issues, non-legal issues, just the logistics of it, because my background is in mental health and supporting people holistically. Adam, how do you see what I do meshing with what y'all do?
What you do is very important from our perspective, because a lot of the times you see the families or our potential clients before probate may be needed, but you also see it after the fact if it's too late for pre-planning, where, these families don't know what to do. You provide the guidance, you provide different options, just like we do, of what they can do. Your services mesh so well with both sides of our practice that no matter who they end up with first, whether it be us or you, we have that connection to serve them in every capacity that they may need.
Yeah, and it's really fun to partner up with people like y'all, because I feel like we are creating this net, like I imagine like a
Mhm.
trapeze artist, or more like a tightrope walker, where our client is up there, trying to do something for the first time and try to figure it out and how to stay balanced. We're creating this safety net. So we're helping them, we're cheerleading for them. And
Right.
then we're also saying, have you thought about this? And oh, by the way, you're grieving. Have you thought about a counselor? It's not
Mhm.
just transactional, it's very much holistic from my point of view.
Absolutely.
So you've learned a lot about dementia, and you're a trainer and you do all kinds of things to help the community with that. Do you want to talk about what it's like to work with someone whose memory might be starting to fade for whatever reason and what that means for an estate plan?
Yeah, so it's very important to be proactive when you have noticed either yourself or a loved one not remembering things that they should or that they would normally, or if there is early diagnosis of some form of dementia, because there's multiple forms out there. It's very important to be proactive and make sure that you have the planning in place that is going to be needed to be sure, yes, that everything's taken care of after you've passed, but also upon your disability or incapacity. Having those powers of attorneys in place to help your agent, whether it be medical or financial, be able to assist you in making decisions on your behalf if you're unable to do so yourself. A lot of the times we find clients coming to us when it's too late, when there's a lack of the cognitive ability to remember or understand what legal documents they need or should be signing, right? So that leads us to having to go through guardianship, which
Right.
can be another very expensive, stressful, time-consuming court proceeding. So I can't stress the importance of making sure that you have proper legal documents in place before it's too late. Because as a certified dementia practitioner, my job is to understand the different types of dementias, is to understand how they may affect somebody's cognitive ability, to not just on the legal side understand legal documents or the ability or inability to sign legal documents, but how their behaviors may change over time, or when it may be time to transition somebody with dementia out of the home or into a safer 24/7 facility if they need that skilled level of care. Not having the proper planning in place when that time comes opens the door for your loved ones to have to go through guardianship. And then again, after you pass, have to go through probate. So they're getting hit with a double whammy
Oh,
when it
wow.
when it comes to court. You
I
know,
didn't realize that.
yeah, because without proper powers of attorney documents, financial, medical, or even some of your medical directives, your agent or the person you may want to make decisions on your behalf may not be able to. And the only way that they would be able to do that is to obtain guardianship. So, dependent on the circumstances, of course, depending on what documents you have, if any, would allow us to avoid having to go through that court process in addition to avoiding probate in the future upon death.
So, just for clarification, Adam, when you use the word agent, most of us that are not attorneys would think about a real estate agent or an insurance agent, something like that. What do you
Mhm.
mean when you use the word agent?
So when you hear, anybody in the legal field using the word agent, typically it refers to the person that you have appointed to make medical or financial decisions on your behalf. A lot of people just say, "Oh, my daughter's my power of attorney." The legal term is that, "Oh, my daughter is my agent for power of
Okay.
attorney."
Okay. So the
So
person named as on your directive, a power of attorney for whichever power of attorney it is considered the agent. Got it.
correct. Yep.
So it can be an attorney, but it's most often a friend or a family member considered an agent.
Yeah,
Okay.
you can appoint anybody you want. Hopefully it's somebody you trust to
Sure.
be appointed as that person to make medical or financial decisions yourself. Most of the time it is a family member or a friend. We do have clients who we call solo agers who may not have children or spouses or other family that, either because they don't have any or because they may have other family members, but they live out of state or out of town. So they may opt in for someone to serve as their agent for power of attorney, whether it be medical or financial, in a professional capacity, such as, and a lot of those types of people would be like a social worker.
Yeah, especially in dementia situation. I mean, it's hard for the average, but for someone knowing that they have a dementia diagnosis,
Mhm.
that's going to be a real challenge.
It's difficult having that conversation and coming to terms with what the diagnosis that you've received is. Just very important to have that understanding of the importance of having these legal documents in place to be sure that not just your loved ones are taken care of and this whole process is made easy for them, but also for the person who's been diagnosed themselves, making
Right.
sure that they get the care that they may need in the future, and then also make it easy on them to transition to allow someone else to manage different aspects of their life when it may be time for them to do so.
Right. Right. Thank you for what you do. That's just such a gift for the people that I mean, you didn't have to choose to become a practitioner of dementia and to understand all of that, but that training that you have prepares you for those meetings that you step into. And so then you have a level of guidance to offer that other people don't have. And I know that sets you apart in what you do. So I appreciate that
Thank
as a
you.
human
Yeah,
being,
it's
you know?
it is very important. And, with the number of dementia diagnoses just increasing exponentially, it's something that even within the last 5 years that I've been here with the firm, the amount of people coming to us because they have been diagnosed with some form of dementia or their mom or dad or other loved one may have, it's just become more common. And we're expecting that number of dementia diagnoses to increase tenfold by 2050. So, it's very important to understand what signs and symptoms to look out for and to understand that mom may have had dementia, but it may not have necessarily been accurately diagnosed. A lot of people think, oh, mom just had old timers, another name for Alzheimer's, but you can't just go to your doctor and they tell you that, "Oh, you've got dementia." What kind? That's going to really affect your cognitive ability or capacity to sign legal documents. That's gonna
Right.
determine what medication you may be prescribed. So it's very important to get an accurate diagnosis too. But that's my job as a certified dementia practitioner, is to help navigate those questions about a dementia diagnosis for our clients and their loved ones. And by the end of this year, 2024, our goal is to have everybody on our staff be a certified dementia practitioner. That way
Wow.
we can offer that, guidance and that, service across the board, no matter who they
Yeah.
may speak with.
Right. Your language will be consistent throughout the office around
Absolutely.
that topic. That's really neat. Because what happens if you feel like they're not all there cognitively and they sign, what does that mean to you?
One, it could be very unethical. But two, that just opens the possibility of more issues for the loved ones in the future. If someone doesn't agree with the validity of a document because of a diagnosis. So, on the legal side, we've got to be very, very cautious of when it may be too late. But that's
Mhm.
when we communicate with medical professionals. We have them examined by their doctor, by their neurologist, by somebody who can give that medical opinion on whether or not this potential client has the ability to sign legal documents. So at the end of the day, it's going to determine, if we have a question about the legal ability to sign legal documents, then we're going to request the potential client to be examined by their doctor
Yeah, because y'all
just
are
to be
like
sure.
you're like the first like gatekeepers, right? Like
Mhm.
you're supposed to assess and make sure that they're not minors, they're not under the influence of anything, and that they're all there, that they have
Right.
the capacity to agree to what they're signing. And if you see flags, then let's get a doctor involved because we need to
Absolutely.
make sure that we're all okay. Maybe they need medication, maybe it's not dementia, maybe it's something else.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep. And a lot of the
um,
time, if someone has, for example, a UTI, you
right.
know, something as small or curable, fixable
Yeah.
as that
Yeah. Yeah.
could hinder somebody's, cognitive ability even just temporarily. So, we've gotta stay on our toes, on our tippy toes and just be careful. But at the end of the day, that's us doing our job to protect the client, to
Yep.
protect mom, to protect dad, to protect whatever loved one is coming in, our doors, because
Yeah.
we want to be sure that they receive the care that not only they need, but at the end of the day deserve.
Correct. And if someone is being malicious and manipulative and, coercive in some way, then there's a reason that they're doing that. And beneficiaries that might have access or, be in line for something
Mhm.
that the senior wants them to have, but feels like they, are being forced, y'all are watching out for the beneficiaries that might be out there too, that rightly have a
Right.
place in this. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. So what do you enjoy about what you do, Adam?
I love meeting with just all the different kinds of people. I love meeting with people. I love hearing their stories, how they grew up, where they're from, the stories of them raising their kids. Even those that do come in with a more progressed form of dementia, they love telling you about their life. And Kim says this too, but it's like, meeting with seniors is like meeting with your grandparents. And it's absolutely true. So getting to just spend the day with other people's grandparents and hearing their stories just reminds me of my own. So I just love the people aspect of it. But
Yeah.
also at the end of the day, being able to help them too.
Right.
It's very satisfying to have that feeling that, okay, I did something that made a difference
Yeah.
today,
Yeah.
or that will make a difference eventually, in the future. So providing that peace of mind to not
Right.
only the client, but also potentially their loved ones. That's very, it's very just, I don't know the word other than, for lack of a better term, just satisfying. It allows me to feel just warmth.
Yes. I agree. And for me, I think it's what you were just saying too. It's not just the person that you're planning, the senior perhaps, or someone that needs guardianship. They certainly deserve our care. They're vulnerable and they
Mm.
need someone to oversee them that has knowledge, expertise, and integrity, but also for the loved ones who are trying to care for them, because that's such a tough job to be so stretched. And so that's one of
Right.
the reasons I do what I do, is to make their job easier. So obviously I'm not an attorney. I don't take your place, but if I can lighten the load in taking some of the logistics off of their plate, they
Mm.
can breathe a little easier. And that does feel really good. It's a
Yep. Absolutely.
gratifying feeling. Okay, well, my hope, like I said, is that our audience will not just take what we've talked about, and listen to it, but they will take it to action. Adam, how can people find you? Where can they reach you?
Yeah, the best way to reach me personally is by email. My email is adam@yourlegacylegalcare.com. And then you can also find us online on our website, yourlegacylegalcare.com. And then we're everywhere on social media. So connect with us on, Facebook, on LinkedIn, on YouTube. We have the Life Happens podcast with our managing attorney, Kim Hegwood. Instagram, Twitter, we're anywhere and everywhere you can find us. So you can just search Your Legacy Legal Care and connect with us wherever you have platforms. And then you can always message us on those different platforms as well. But email is the best way to get a hold of me in particular, or also calling the office. Our phone number is 281-218-0880.
Great. Thank you for that. And for those that might be driving around the trails, all that information will also be in the show notes that you can access later. So thank you so much for joining the Probate Podcast. Adam and I are alike in this. We want you to know that you matter and that you're not alone and that we are here to help. So if you have any questions, you can reach out to either one of us, and we'll be glad to direct you in whatever way that we feel like is your next best step. So take good care. Until next time, know that you matter. That's all I have for now. New episodes of the Probate Podcast will come out on Thursdays. I also have a free public support group called Houston Probate Support on Facebook. You don't have to live in the greater Houston area to be a member, but I'd love to have you join me there. I'd love to have you join me on any of these platforms, including this podcast, and I'll share the links of where you can find me in the show notes below. I'm looking forward to us connecting. See you next time, and remember, you matter.